Now, the election to fill the late California Senator Dianne Feinstein's seat is down to two contenders. Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff will face off against Republican candidate and former baseball player Steve Garvey in November. They were the top two vote getters in yesterday's primary. CBS News political reporter Hunter Woodall is following this and other races for us from our Washington bureau. Hunter, great to have you on the program today. Congressman Schiff has been considered the front runner of the Senate race since declaring his candidacy last year. But is this expected to be a close race, considering who we had to elbow out of the way to get there?
Well, California is a very blue state, as we know, and Schiff has a massive financial advantage in this state. When you look at campaign finance filings from last month, he comes in with more than $13 million in cash on hand, it looks like. Steve Garvey had less than $1 million. And in a state like California, you need a lot of money to run. Control of the Senate is on the ballot in the 2024 general election, and I would not expect California to be one of those states where Republicans have a pickup opportunity.
Yeah, and the balance of power in the House and Senate is crucial for both parties moving forward. So let's talk about a highly competitive House race also happening in California. I'm specifically talking about the 22nd district. What's the latest there?
This race is fascinating. There are only two House Republicans left in Congress who voted to impeach Donald Trump after the January 6th Capitol attack. One of them is California Congressman David Valadao. He is running for re-election. He advanced out of the top two primary here, and he's now set for a rematch with his Democratic challenger from 2022, Rudy Salas. Now, this is a swing district. The House has very narrow control right now. Republicans control it. This is one of those races that will decide the balance of power in the House very likely come the general election. And for national Republicans, they're behind David Valadao, but this is one of those places where obviously, former President Donald Trump has been very, scornful of Republicans who voted to impeach him after the January 6th attack. And David Valadao is one of the very few left who actually held Trump accountable after that attack.
It's fascinating, Hunter, because the local election and race in California very well could have a national impact when it comes to who has control of the House in Congress. I want to turn to the governor's race, though, now in North Carolina. What should we know about the candidates who won yesterday's primaries there?
North Carolina is an absolutely fascinating dynamic. North Carolina is a swing state. It is one of 7 battlegrounds that we anticipate, watching in the general election. It has 16 electoral votes. Now, Donald Trump won that state in 2020. It's one of those 7 battlegrounds, one of the only ones he won of those 7. Now, in this governor's race, Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, who would become the first black governor of North Carolina if he wins the general election, won the Republican nomination. On the Democratic side, Attorney General Josh Stein won the Democratic nomination for governor. He would become the first Jewish governor of North Carolina if he wins the general election. Robinson, however, is a very controversial figure. He's made very controversial comments about the LGBTQ community. He's made comments about Nazis and Adolf Hitler that are sure to, be jumped on by national Democrats as they look to gain ground in North Carolina. It's a tough state for them, for national Democrats. They want to win it in the general election in the presidency. They want to keep the governor's office as well. Right now it's in the hands of Democratic Governor Roy Cooper, who's not running for re-election. But given Robinson's baggage in this race, it's a big challenge for Republicans.
All right, we'll continue to watch that closely. Hunter Woodall, thanks very much.